because Trump wants to give them power. He wants to give them Christian power. Christian nationalism is all about political power. It's about forcing Christianity back into the government and into our laws and creating a theocracy. And there's a plan to do that. Trump's part of that plan, to create a real, genuine theocracy and do away with democracy, where that Christianity will be forced upon you like a fascist dictatorship, but a Christian fascist dictatorship. And really, that's what a lot of white Christians want. They never really cared about, Christianity has never really been about Jesus. It's been about using Jesus to steal shit. Trump's the biggest criminal we've seen in the presidency. He's all about stealing shit. He stole from everybody ever worked for him. He stole from the American public. He's bamboozled us. He's lied to us. He got people killed during the pandemic. He is a bona fide narcissist criminal, a psychopath.
That's Dixon White. I met him in 2015 because he was on social media lighting folk up, and he had I think he was in character as this real country Southern person, and we brought him on. I think he had even a different name then, and that was 9 years ago that we were having conversations, and he would be on, in and out, and I was like, well, he's still doing this, which means this is mission. You're on a mission, yep, sir, and I appreciate the work that you're doing around setting the record straight. I don't know if it's working, but we're going to have this conversation. Let me welcome back to the show, Mr. Dixon White. Hi.
Hey, Karen. Thanks for having me on. Good to hear you again.
I know. 9 years is a long time.
Yeah.
At first I was like, is he for real? But yeah, you're still doing this. Why? Why are you still in them streets talking this talk?
I don't know. I just made a commitment a long time ago to this work. And I feel like there's not many people doing it. And I feel like it's important that my people are actually speaking the truth racially. So there's so few people doing it. And I'm just trying to encourage people, my people, white people, to become anti-racist and to join me. And I do a lot of shaming, and I think it's necessary because I think it's that serious of immorality that people need to be shamed. And that's just, the way that I approach it. But here I am. And I've had some positive feedback. I get a tremendous amount.
I was going to ask you, how's it working out for you?
Well, sadly, I don't have a lot of white people following me. They run from me like little white cockroaches. They just, I don't know. But every now and then I'll have a white person, DM me or make a comment that says, hey, I get it now. Thanks for helping me see the light. Thanks for guiding me and speaking the truth. So that's what really keeps me going, is when I get those comments. But I've had a lot of tremendous support from the Black community, and that's another reason I keep going. It's their love and their encouragement that also keeps me going, and their wisdom and their education. They teach me. I learn from you guys.
Yeah, and that's smart. We're talking with Dixon White. As I was listening to you talk about, Trump using Christianity, he's got a Trump Bible with the Constitution in it. That's so weird, mixing church and state, when in the Constitution it separates church and state. You throw in the Constitution and the Bible. There's so much blasphemy going on here, and people are buying that Bible. I was on Amazon to see where it was ranking. It's like number 3 in Bibles or something. I was like, what is happening? What do we make of this?
It's just Trump. Since 2016, he's been conning America and creating a cult, in my opinion. His followers at MAGA is really a cult, in my opinion. That's where we're at. And cult leaders, they are notorious for treating the congregation, like I compare him to Jim Jones, except for that Trump, if there was a suicide, he'd be the only one alive. Everybody else would kill themselves but him. He's a very wicked man and a very dangerous man.
I agree with you, Dixon White. I just don't know how we convince because since 2016, he was not elected not by the popular vote, but 54% of white women self-identified. I don't believe in whiteness, but for this purpose, white women voted for him, and then more white people voted for him in 2020. And I'm like, and the more black people showed up to vote. This time I'm
Mm-hmm.
nervous because I feel like fewer black people are going to show up to vote, and those same white
Mm-hmm.
people that voted for him in 2020 are going to vote for him again. And it's going to be dicey. So with the Electoral College being what it is, some of the states, including Georgia, could be up for grabs again. And I'm just like, what do we do? What are your thoughts? What are you hearing?
As far as the election,
Yep.
I think there's a lot of Democrats that are not going to vote for Biden because of the genocide and our support and Biden's support of the genocide in Palestine. I think it's going to be a lot of Democrats that will not vote in this election, or if they do, they'll vote independent. So I think we're in a real threat to have Trump as president.
Okay. 866-801-8255. So what then?
If he gets elected,
yes.
it's potentially the end of America as we know it. White supremacy, literally Jim Crow 2.0. And I mean that sincerely. It'll be a new version of Jim Crow. And, the Project 2025 is already in the works. They're going to implement Christian nationalism and so many changes, women's rights, LGBTQ rights, anti-blackness, anti-brown, anti-this and that, pro-white, pro-Christian, pro-male, pro-straight, all those things, pro-Christian, all those things will be implemented. And it's written out in Project 2025, a lot of it.
So why isn't this resonating? Because everything they're saying, I know everyone listening to this broadcast knows, because we've been, especially Larry Daniel Favors, Clay Kane has a whole book talking about the grifters in our community. And, we kind of every day are pounding this, and it feels to me almost futile because I'm preaching to the choir or the converted. There'll be some callers call in to still say they're not voting for Biden, or they're not voting, period. They're going to vote down ballot. And I understand the frustration too. So I can't even, for black folk who have made a conscious decision on this program, in this space, I know where they're coming from, but there's a whole lot of hurt that's about to come down if most of us don't show up in November. And I don't know what to do about it at this point, Dixon. I don't know how to convince people to vote their interests, not for people.
Yeah, no, people are tired of the lesser of two evils, so
Mm-hmm.
I don't know either. I don't know what the answer is to that.
Okay. All right. I guess we're both in the same boat. So we're going to keep doing what we've been doing, which is to talk about it. What's been the biggest surprise for you? Because I met you 9 years ago, but I figure you've been doing this a little bit longer. What dragged you into having these conversations about not just Trump, but racism, how it shows up? What was your Damascus moment?
Gosh, I guess it was a combination of things. But number one, having a lot of abuse and trauma as a kid, and then realizing when I was about 19, being bullied again, I had severe low self-esteem, had clinical depression, and I was about 19 years old, and I was bullied so bad in my freshman year in college that I almost had a nervous breakdown. And one day it hit me. All the shit I went through my whole life from my family in college was all because of bigotry and prejudice. And so I developed a genuine, and part of my healing was understanding bigotry and healing. And so in that journey, I made a commitment to not participate in my indoctrination, to reject my indoctrination, my racist indoctrination. And I began to put my bigotry out of me and not be such a product of my environment, and try to think more objectively and as an individual. And then 1990 in college, I had a roommate. He was black. His name is Roy Rudder. He don't mind me saying his name. We're friends to this day. Talked to him last night. 1990, we talk every week since 1990. He's been my best friend. But he kind of took me under his wing and just taught me about black culture. And I witnessed what happened to him in 1990 in Savannah, Georgia, with the police, with racism. I won't get into all the stories, but what I saw him go through because of racism changed my life. And so I became an activist at that point. And that's where I started, was in 1990. And then 1991, actually started my activism. I got fired from a job. Long story, but yeah, that's when I started.
Is this for you? Do you do speaking engagements? Like how, or is it just you do videos when you feel inspired? Is this part of your job?
No, I don't make any money, but I've had offers to do speaking engagements, but I never have done it. I just do videos. Acting is art, filmmaking and acting. So I've incorporated some satire and comedy, and I made one recently about playing a MAGA cult member. But anyhow, with selling upside down crosses and stuff, or buying it. But anyhow, I use satire and comedy a lot now, and then also I have serious rants too. But yeah, just trying to do my little part in the world.
Well, I appreciate it. And it requires more. We were talking about this yesterday, not just allies, but accomplices, people who are literally in the paint doing this work and challenging the folk who identify with this whiteness, because I think many of them don't think they're racist. They don't think they're white nationalists. They don't think that they're, that they're, prejudiced. They think that the world is unfair, and they see all of these people, these immigrants, these blacks getting a leg up, and they feel like they're discriminated against as white men, in particular, white people. And so that's what they're fighting for, in their minds. And it's wild, but this is the narrative that they speak. So it requires somebody like you to say, no, this is not what's happening. How do we get more people on this train?
I don't know. I really don't know. I'm just trying to encourage people all that I can and do my part to educate white folks. But it's so true what you said about how white society is, and how we are culturally, and how we view things, and that narrative that plays out daily. It's so powerful, and it's only growing since Trump. Trump has emboldened racism, emboldened white nationalism, and people are proud racists now. They're confident in it. And, it's more covert and it's more overt. It's just growing in all directions now. It's gotten significantly worse since 2015, in my opinion.
I agree. It feels like bamboo. We got to get to the root of it. Dixon White is here. You should follow him because he's fascinating. He tweeted out, white folks have always had DEI, didn't earn it. Didn't earn it. I love that. Diversity, equity, inclusion only exists because of it. And powerful. Yes. All of the things. Thank you. And it's sad, Yes, we were talking yesterday, and one of my co-hosts was saying how sad it is. We were talking about Beyonce, that it takes a Willie Nelson or a Dolly Parton to validate, Beyonce's foray into country when she was great before. She shouldn't need that. And I'm like, but people are so ignorant and uneducated that they believe that somehow she's culturally appropriating something that was invented and created by black people. She can't culturally appropriate. It's not yours to begin with.
Exactly.
But people don't know that. Yeah.
Exactly.
So I want to play a clip from Anthony Scaramucci. Most of Trump's cabinet members and people that were in his inner circle, including now Hope, it looks like Hope is about to turn on him too. Anthony Scaramucci had this to say. He was interviewed recently, and I want to get your opinion on it. Dixon White is here. The number is 866-801-8255. We'll take some calls too. Play the Anthony Scaramucci clip.
The second thing I would say is, if you really analyze that data, there's approximately 25% of the Republicans that voted for Nikki Haley when they exited the polls, and they were asked, well, would you vote for Mr. Trump? That number was a negative. That the word was a negative. And so the point being, if you don't get the crossover vote, you really can't win the presidency. Secretary of State Hillary Clinton did not get that crossover vote from Bernie Sanders, but Barack Obama did get that crossover vote from Senator Clinton. And so, and of course, Mr. Trump got that crossover vote from his fellow Republicans in 2016. But I think that there is several things that are going to happen as we get towards the fall. There's a very large group of us that have worked for the president. It's sort of like a Trump recovery unit, if you will. It includes people like Secretary Esper, General Milley, General John Kelly, Bill Barr. There's a whole host of us, John Bolton, who are going to go out there and passionately explain to the American people the systemic danger of Mr. Trump. And I think the problem that Europeans have with all of this is that Europeans in general have more hereditary memory of the scourge of fascism and the destruction that fascism caused on the continent. Of course, the United States, we avoided that. Franklin Delano Roosevelt was able to put down the first America First movement, which was led by people like Charles Lindbergh and Father Coughlin, et cetera. And so we don't have the hereditary memory. We don't have the field trip going to places which were destroyed as a result of fascist leaders declaring war on Western liberal democracies. And I think it's a little bit of a problem for the country. But again, there'll be a very large group of us come the fall out on the airwaves, on the campaign, explaining to people the systemic danger that Donald Trump represents to the institutions of the democracy and basically to the fabric of America, the checks and balances in the system that have made people free in this country and by and large very prosperous.
I never thought I would be like, yay, Anthony Scaramucci, but here we are. When you listen to this, I'm optimistic, but then I also feel like not the people that need to hear this are hearing it. What are your thoughts, Dixon?
I don't know. I hope they can get out and make a difference. You know, I pray to God. Trump is extremely dangerous. And I feel like white supremacy is why we are where we're at. And I feel like white America has always been in a cult. I think that's part of colonizing. I feel like it is a cult. I feel like that's psychopathy. And I feel like white supremacy is psychopathy. So I think white America has always been a cult. We've kind of been waiting for a cult leader, and they found it in Trump. And so the reason we're in this mess is because we're a cult. White supremacy is a cult, in my opinion. And so we're in that mess because we found a cult leader, and Trump knew what America wanted to hear. He basically said the racist stuff out loud, and white people just literally fell in love and began worshiping the man. He gave them confidence to be white supremacists, proud white supremacists again. And so it's a very dangerous thing. And not only is he a cult leader, but he's a dictator. He's a fascist. He has no concern for anybody or anything other than himself in a literal sense. So he's extremely dangerous for whatever democracy that we have here functioning. And, you know, so that's my 2 cents on it.
We're talking with Dixon White. What does your Thanksgiving look like? Are you welcome at your Thanksgiving table with your family? Your family happy with what you do?
I have several immediate families that we don't even talk anymore. We don't even speak. We go to family dinners and get-togethers, but we don't communicate anymore because things have gotten so bad in my family with certain people. So it's sad. I've lost really, dear family members that very close to, and I've lost countless amount of friends and coworkers that I knew over the years. But that's part of it. It's sad, but I wouldn't change a thing.
What do they say to you?
Oh, I was really sick one time, and I got kicked out of a house. I was visiting up from Florida with a family member, and I got kicked out of the house, my shit thrown out, all because they made a statement. They said that Black people do not deserve equity because they could never have enough. And all I said was, that sounds very racist. They had a Karen moment, broke down, kicked me out of their house, threw all my shit out. And I was very sick, just got out of the ER. And so I had nowhere to go. I got kicked out of their house. I had to go back to Florida, and I had to pick all my shit up out of the yard being sick. But it's those kinds of things. It's almost violent. It's, because some of these people, they're Trump supporters, and they know that I hate Trump. They know that I hate racism, and they're supporting white supremacy. And so
they're not even trying to listen to your perspective. And let me just say a point of order here. We do not use Karen in a pejorative on the Karen Hunter Show. That problematic white lady in your life, her name is Jenny, Ginni, in honor of Clarence Thomas's wife. She's Jenny, or she's Amy, who actually did call the police on a Black man in the park bird watching. So yeah, that's crazy that they won't even listen.
Yeah, it's bad. But there's some people that do. Like, I have some good, I won't say who, but my cousins that are Christian, and they've really gotten into social justice, and they've really grown, and they care about anti-racism. So those people are people I'm close to, and they encourage me, and I encourage them. And so I really appreciate them being white, being Christian, and being anti-racist. So those are the people that I try to use as an example in my family to, as a role model, so.
Let me try something out on you. Dixon
Mhm.
White is here, last name White. I think the problem is whiteness. You just called whiteness a cult. Can we get people to not identify with being white, because it's a made up construct? It doesn't exist. It was created to to create a power structure that would keep people in their place. And then invite people in, and then invite people out. So Irish
No.
weren't white, and then they were. Italians weren't white, then they were. Jewish people are white sometimes. Sometimes they're not, and it's not even how it's a weird thing, right? Latinos right now, a lot of them can check white, and they do on the census, and they're led into whiteness. Hey, Ted Cruz and Marco Rubio and them, even though, we know what we know. So I think whiteness is the problem, the invention of whiteness. And if white people stopped identifying with that, I think that's the problem, that cult. So what does that look like to you, me saying that? Does that offend you?
No, not at all. And it makes perfect sense. It's just that I guess all my language is based around using words that have white in it, because, the old saying is, if you don't see color, you don't see racism. So I guess that's why I use words like black and white to help point out that there is racism, because I have white folks that are in so much denial about racism. So I want to distinguish that whiteness is real, racism is real, white supremacy is real, blackness is real, so I just wanted them to see the distinction. Because a lot of white folks are like, I'm not racist, but I'm not going to be anti-racist. They don't want to do the work. They don't want to fight against it. They just want to casually go through their life and ignore it.
I want you to say yes. Need you to do more and say less. I want you to say yes. Need you to do more and say less.